Okay, so one of the questions that I think is plaguing our generation of parents is how much screen time is okay for children at different age groups? What should they be watching? Is screen time and video on demand really the villain of this generation? And it's interesting for me that we've got someone from YouTube to answer that question. Which is really going into the heart of the problem and the solution in some ways. But let me introduce my guest before I ask these questions. Dr. Garth Graham is a cardiologist and a public health expert who served under two US administrations as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Health. He is currently Director and Global Head of Healthcare and Public Health at YouTube at Google. Dr. Graham, thank you so much for making time to have this conversation with me. I know that YouTube is working on multiple solutions for parents who
Sure.
are worried that their children spend too much time on social media. But my first question to you is this. We now have countries across the world that are choosing the age of 16 as a cutoff,
Mhm.
saying only those above 16 should have access to social media at all. Scientifically, do you agree with that decision?
So I think there's kind of a different, there are multiple thoughts around that. I think that one, it's important to have kids understand how to navigate in the digital world, not from the digital world. So how do we empower our kids to utilize technology? Because technology is not monolithic. Educational experiences, the kinds of things kids use technology for learning and understanding the world and exploring the world is particularly important. So we don't want to necessarily take those benefits away from kids from a scientific aspect as well. Overall, when you look at some of those efforts, there's a recent publication in the British Medical Journal
Hmm.
analyzing the Australian effort, and it showed that it wasn't working in terms of what that particular study looked at. And so, from a scientific aspect, I would say that one of the best things we can do is to deliver age appropriate experiences to children, allow them to develop appropriately, and have a safe experience where they enhance their digital literacy and their digital skills.
What, according to you, is the right age for a child to have access to social media and or screens?
Yeah, so screens are not monolithic. There's a lot of, I mean, just think about your own life, the different things you use screen for. You use screens for communication, screens for work. Kids use screens for learning. So it's important to understand the varied aspects of how the concept of screen play out in everyday life for both children and adults. And so if you look conceptually at the data, the real issue around screen usage has to do with both quality of screen usage. And then when you're thinking about device access for children, that concept goes a lot with maturity and development. So not all 10-year-olds are the same, not all 12-year-olds are the same, not all 14-year-olds are the same. And so the concept of how an individual child has developed is developing, and the skills that they're showing in terms of navigating both online and offline aspects in terms of responsibility is particularly important. And so that's why when you look at the data, when you look at some of the global and country-specific clinical organizations, you see really this emphasis both on quality and development and safeguards. Safeguards being particularly important for young people.
In your opinion, what is the biggest risk for children on the internet accessing screens?
Yeah. So I think, I'm a parent as well. And so I think both in the online and offline world, the biggest risk is always child safety. So how do we protect our kids from harmful experiences overall? And I think that just goes to the broader aspect, like I said, of both parenting, but also what's done in public health. And I think a big part of what our team does is, work on both the well-being and safety of kids and teens on YouTube. So I would say at a macro level, it's always going to be, keeping children safe, and that's part of what's very important to us.
Scrolling, sorry, is the endless scrolling a challenge at this point, or is it the quality of what they're watching?
Yeah. So again, going back to kind of where clinical recommendations have evolved, less so much on time and more on quality. So kids have a very different experience on screens if they're using screens for math, geography, learning about the world, supplementing their homework, things that promote positive behavior patterns versus just endless scrolling consumption, as you just mentioned before. So those have two different developmental experiences, and so that's why you see a lot of the clinical recommendations in the past 2 years really geared towards the issue of quality, as opposed to just generically time where things were at before.
Are there any solutions that you have found that you're of the opinion that actually work? Is it compartmentalizing? Is it choosing or issuing parental controls on the kind of content that is watched? What would your advice be to parents on how to regulate what children are watching on the internet?
Yeah. So there's a lot of recommendations that's come out around this concept over the past 2 or 3, 4 years, and so I would bucket it into two particular concepts for parents, and it's important for efforts like what we do in terms of platform leadership to always have those background safeguards in place. So the first thing in terms of recommendations for parents is talk to your kids, so they have that open line of communication. Co-viewing is one of the things that's recommended by pediatricians, so that parents understand the content that their children are consuming, but more importantly, creating this concept of joint attention and helping them build critical viewing skills. The second thing is building a family media plan. So coming up with the rules for your family and establishing those. And I often talk about the fact that after you build the rules, you can just automate them with parental control. So you as a parent aren't the enforcer, the tools are the enforcer. So that helps decrease the concept of conflict. And then the third is always balance. Much of these discussions have to do with the issue of overuse as opposed to just use. And so you want to make sure as kids are engaging in technology, that it's not supplanting other activities that they would have, sleep being a big part of it. And we're going to talk a lot of times about sleep because that's such an important part, but also all the other social interactions. So co-viewing, open discussion, building a family plan, and then balance being a big part of it.
I understand that YouTube is sorry. I understand that YouTube is working on solutions as well. Could you take us through what you have on offer right now for parents?
Yeah. So we think of it in two ways. So there's a lot of default settings that we have on YouTube to really help promote the well-being of children. So one is we have autoplay is off by default for kids and teens, and we have things like take a break reminders and bedtime reminders. Again, emphasizing the importance of sleep. But then, in part of the parental tools is now giving parents the choice of what are the kinds of experiences they would want their children to have on YouTube. And so you can, for instance, as a parent, you can set the amount of short form video you want your child to watch. You can set it to half an hour, you can set it to an hour, you can set it to zero if you don't want your child watching any short form video through the short form video feed. And so these are some of the concepts where we build to have safety occurring in the background, but also give parents choice.
I have a 4-year-old, and one of the things that I found to be particularly useful is the idea that YouTube only has animal documentaries, which is he thinks that if he goes to YouTube, if he wants to watch an animal documentary, then YouTube is the place to watch it. And then we watch it for say 15 minutes because you can pick the video depending on the length. And then we discuss it and we talk about all of the things that we saw and how we can actually go see this animal in real life. Are they, and looking at it from a child development point of view, for these
Yeah.
very young children who are born into this world and who will also very likely be AI natives because
Mhm.
it's so real for them, are there ways in which we can help them live happily
Yes.
in a
Yes.
digital and an AI world and
Yep.
healthily, more importantly? What are those
Yes.
ways?
Yes. And so you want your children to have age appropriate experience. You want a 5-year-old to have a 5-year-old experience, a 10-year-old to have a 10-year-old experience, teenagers to have a teenage experience so that their development matches the journey they're having online. And what you articulated with your 4-year-old is an example of a good example of what you'd recommend for an under 5 experience. So watching content together, so co-viewing being a big part of that, and also being purposefully driving high quality consumption, particularly for under 5, and that's where YouTube Kids is really helpful because it allows you to pick the specific channels or you want or don't want. When you get to 10, that's when you start to talk more than about more of the education and learning experiences, and where you really start to emphasize the issue of quality. And as you start to get into teenage years, is where you have more autonomy. You want to allow them to have more, driving more of their journey, understanding concepts around privacy, but also helping them navigate how to be healthier adults in terms of digital skills. And so, a lot of this is about age appropriate experiences. And that's how we've thought it through at YouTube, where you have YouTube Kids for younger kids, you supervise teens accounts, tweens accounts for preteens, 11 to 13, and then the teen account experience, which has a number of safeguards built in place for teens.
Well, the thing about allowing a child to use YouTube is that it tends to be so intuitive in terms of usage that children take to it automatically. How complicated are the parental controls that you're discussing? How difficult would it be for us as parents to put it in?
Yeah, and as a parent myself, I understand how time is not something a lot of parents have. We have many times a lot of competing responsibilities. So we work to make it really simple. So, for instance, if you are trying to set up, say, that short feed timer for your teen or preteen, it's pretty simple. You just go into the family center, click on your kid's name, and then you just click towards this time management, and then you set the amount of short form video, if any, that you would want them to watch, because you can set that to 0 if you don't want them to view any at all. So we've tried to simplify that process in general as well. And also, one of the things, Faye, is we know that sometimes there might be one phone that's used and that multiple people in a household may use it. And so we've worked to simplify the account experience that
Yeah.
allow parents to toggle in between different accounts for different kids, so that depending on which child has the phone, that you deliver that age appropriate experience for that child. And again, this issue of age appropriate experience is really important in the conversations we have about technology and children.
And finally, we did talk a little bit about AI, but I do want to know what your advice is, and if this is something you're already working on,
Yeah.
and how we can, sort of introduce our children into the world of AI. I know there's been studies in the UK that say that children should be writing with pencils on paper, and it helps their brain development, and just sticking them directly to a keyboard actually is not good. So I also, as a parent, worry about them just learning basic uh, thinking and mathematics and remembering details and remembering facts, while AI also exists in their world.
Yeah.
Does it threaten the entire learning process right now?
Well, like most kinds of technology, they're best used as an adjunct to the development both of children and adults. And so, like in India, we have learning initiatives going where we use Notebook LM or Notebook product along with artificial AI, and use that to help kids supplement their educational experience. So, in general, and this goes for not just AI, I would say, technology overall. You want to introduce the tool, have it work as a supplement in general, and help. And so the guided learning initiative is the one that we have in India on Gemini,
Right.
in terms of bringing together AI. And so that's how we would view it. That's a pretty good example of how I would want to see AI evolve in terms of how we use it in education.
All right, Dr. Graham, thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon and answering all of those questions. I wish you very, very good luck, and I hope we can continue to have these conversations as technology develops.
Thank you so much, Faye.
Thank you.